Paul, go ahead.
Will you introduce to Congress a bill repealing the Patriot Act?
I will, well, okay.
That's a definite question. Will you, yes or no?
Hold on. If it's coming up for renewal within a time frame...
I didn't ask that.
I have to explain it this way. I have to explain. On day one when I get there, it might be coming up for renewal. I honestly don't know yet. If it's coming up for renewal right away, it wouldn't make sense for me to write a bill to repeal it, because it would take longer to repeal it through the process that it goes through than it would just to not renew it.
A simple vote of Congress can repeal it. I asked the question.
How simple is a vote of Congress?
Will you introduce a bill?
No.
Requiring?
No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
Okay? But if it's going to be 2 or 3 years, time that's going to take to come up for a renewal vote, then sure. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's not working. It's costing American lives. It's costing American liberties. So it's not just a simple yes or no question. To get a vote in front of Congress takes months, sometimes years. It might be more efficient to wait for it to ultimately come up for renewal and just not renew it.
Well, I didn't ask if the bill would, if you would introduce the bill to Congress. If I did, I misspoke. What I want you to do is formally introduce it in the usual manner. Any other bill that's introduced, I understand it has to go through various committees before it's actually presented to Congress. Mm-hmm. So maybe I should rephrase my question a little bit. Will you authorize on your own such a bill and introduce it to the appropriate committees for the repeal of the Patriot Act?
My response is the same.
Thank you.
Back corner. Go ahead.
It's my understanding that the 16th Amendment was never ratified. I've seen DVDs where IRS agents have left the IRS because they cannot prove that it was ever ratified. They're working on a lie.
Ma'am, I don't know.
Don't have that amendment.
I don't know the answer to that. All I know is that it's in the Constitution right now.
It's never been ratified.
Well, I don't have proof of that.
In my book here, it does say it was ratified February 3rd, 1913 in the Constitution.
There is some debate about that, so I guess people will debate, can debate that. We'll move on to the next question, and we'll definitely get more people. Go ahead, front row.
On the balanced budget amendment, I mean, you said you're not in favor of it. Mm-hmm. You just want people to elect the right people. Mm-hmm. And that just doesn't cut it. I mean, that's a temporary thing where, sometimes they'll elect the right people, sometimes they won't. A lot of people want to put a restriction where, here's your limits right now, and make exceptions for things like a war or something like that.
Here's why I think it cuts it. Is because I think that each one of you can make the right decision. I think that Americans are smart enough, are in tune with their country enough to recognize the types of leaders they need and the types of leaders they expect, and accountable enough to hold those who work for them in Washington accountable to do the right things. I don't think... Yeah.
I'm just going to interrupt on
Sure.
this. On that same thing, I think everybody, the people that voted for Obama would have thought open change. He's going to end the war, close Guantanamo, get rid of the Patriot Act, and that hasn't happened. Right. So, I mean, it's easy to say that, and then we elect these people, and of course they lie to us. Well, now look at the damage we've already got. Yeah. So would you?
How do I square that up?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a fair question, and I don't diminish or minimize any cynicism from anybody, or any distrust from any of you or any member of the United States, citizen of the United States, towards any elected official, because Lord knows they've given us plenty of reason to not trust them, and plenty of reason to be cynical about what they do. It's absolutely correct. But I believe that when given the choice, and when given the opportunity to make the right decision, Americans always will. I just fundamentally in my core believe that when you go into the ballot box and you pull a lever, or you complete the line, or you punch a hole or whatever, you're going to be informed. You're going to know who you're voting for.
How can you say that? I mean, a balanced budget, we've had inflation forever. If we would have had a balanced budget, we would have extremely limited inflation. So we haven't made the right choice in decades.
Well, okay, but let's assume we have a balanced budget amendment in, right? What's to stop the Congress from working around that like they work around lots of other parts of the Constitution right now.
Peacetime.
I don't think that simply adding an amendment to the Constitution is the answer. The issue we have is a behavioral issue. If we have a new amendment to the Constitution that says you must have a balanced budget, and we as a people are okay with that, and we fall asleep at the wheel again, Congress will still abuse it. It needs to be much more than just an amendment. It needs to be, if we add an amendment, it needs to be something that we actively pursue, we actively uphold, and we actively enforce. And Congress has shown a penchant to disregard that until people rise up.
Well, Dave, wouldn't that be a mechanism for us
Could be.
who are
Sure.
not asleep to then go to the courts to prevent it and block it?
Perhaps, yes, it sure would. But here's again, it's adding something to the Constitution that I don't like messing with. So if you want to take another poll, see how many people would like a balanced budget amendment, I'd be more than happy to take that as advice.
All right, let's get a poll. Balance the budget.
Balance the budget.
Okay, I don't see a majority.
Let's raise them higher this time.
One
All those opposed?
I think the budget needs to be balanced regardless. But I don't think that the be-all, end-all solution to that is an amendment to the Constitution.
Do you think going back to strict apportionment would be a good way to ensure that? Because with non-apportioned taxation, it opens up the opportunity going to imbalanced budgets. So if you went back to strict apportionment prior to the 16th Amendment, that would certainly help to guarantee that you're going to be very close to
Certainly
balanced
could.
budgets.
Certainly could help it, yeah.
One of the things, too, to follow up, I don't know that the founders necessarily believed that they trusted the American people in everything because they left us with a republic instead of a democracy. They left us with a system of the rule of law instead of a majority rule because of the very fact that people can be deceived.
It was a democratically elected republic.
Negative.
But it is not a
Correct.
democracy.
Correct. I agree.
And part of that because they didn't trust
there's a democratic component
process.
of it.
But a part of that is because they did not necessarily believe the American people left to themselves would always be able to come up with the right decision protecting their own liberty.
Well, I don't necessarily fully agree with that.
Well, I kind of read a lot of what they said, and that's part of it, especially what Adams and some of the others were concerned about, is that people...
Right, there were Federalists and Anti-Federalists. Federalists believed that the people weren't always capable of making the right decisions. Anti-Federalists were. So that's one of the debates for the ages. And one of the great things that adds the spice and variety to our republic. But there were plenty of commonalities that they agreed on as well, like the Second Amendment. Things that they said, we can't live without this.
Bob?
Yeah, I thought about this ever since you spoke the first time about, you seem to be confused about the democracy and republic.
I'm not confused at all about democracy and republic.
Yes, you are.
Read the Bible. Do you ever hear the wide gate and the narrow gate?
Sure. But
Repeat it to me then if you heard it. Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction. And then what else does it say?
I don't recall.
Many will choose it. And I've sat here and listened to you talk about taking a straw vote again, and that's why we're in the trouble we are. Everybody takes a poll to see what the people want. That's the wide gate. The people, God says, the people want the wide gate, and it leads to destruction. God said that. And if you don't believe that, you might as well leave the room.
Well, we'll still ask some more
That's a
questions.
republic. At least that is a republic. That is
appreciate
not a
it.
democracy.
Paul?
I appreciate your input. Thank you.
There are just two very small places in our republic in which the term democracy could be lightly applied, and I will not tell you them.
Okay.
Just two very small places.
Okay.